Number 13, explain SWOT analysis. Carl.
Well, you came to the right place. Yeah, I am the risk guy. And actually, back in the day, that's the chapter, the PMBOK that I wrote, was risk management. And SWOT is a big part of this. SWOT is strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. PMI labels it as a risk identification tool. And while I agree, I think more realistically, what it is it's a risk presentation tool where you identify the strengths and weaknesses of the organization and the opportunities and threats that are created by the project itself. And if you can get people to identify not only the strengths and weaknesses are organizational, opportunities and threats are project specific, but if they find something that's over here in the opportunity, or I'm sorry, in the weaknesses box and in the threats box, that's when we take pause and we go, oh, wow, that's a weakness and a threat. It is not going to be a pretty time. That's going to be a real dark problem for us.
Gotcha. Very good. I could see how you do put the fun in project management, Carl. That's very engaging.
Bless you.
It. Number 14, what is rolling wave planning, David?
Yeah, rolling wave planning. So I'd be looking for them to use the words progressive elaboration. Rolling wave planning means that we are planning the project in large chunks and then detailing out the requirements as we move forward and learn more about the project itself. So rolling wave planning is the form of progressive elaboration that's used within traditional or predictive project management. Progressive elaboration is the major technique that's used within Agile. So, so if a person is talking about both of those, they might refer to the fact that rolling wave planning is not used in Agile because Agile is its own form of progressive elaboration.
Okay, very good. And the midpoint of the questions here, how do you know the type of organization you are working in? Carl.
Wow. And actually, at some point, Dave, I'm going to need you to chime in on this.
Okay.
Because there are a bunch of different formal types of organizations. If you're in a functional organization, they don't really want or need project managers. It's a classic stovepipe. If they've just got bosses and areas of specialty, everybody in accounting works only in accounting. They don't touch other people, and heaven help you if you try to do accounting on your own. That's a functional organization. That's kind of that dark place. But there's also the classic for project management, which is a matrix organization. And most matrix organizations are weak matrix, which means functional managers are still the real bosses, whereas the strong matrix is largely a fiction, where project managers actually hold sway and get to bark out orders and things of that ilk. And just to make a point, Dave and Lisa at Leadership Techniques actually do a lot of the organizational leadership, soft skills kind of stuff. They are the king and queen of that. And so it is kind of noteworthy that recognizing what organization you're in also drives a lot of your behaviors. Is that a safe statement, Dave?
Oh, yeah, I'm loving it. One of our other instructor colleagues calls the matrix organization the worst idea that's ever been brought forth to project management. And it's the kind of organization that we're usually working in. So the official answer to this question would be, oh, I can look at the org chart and know. Well, sure. You can look at the org chart and know, like Carl said, oh, I'm in a matrix organization. It's hierarchical. And then we have project managers on the side. And I'm a project manager, so I'm in a matrix organization. But is it strong, weak, or balanced? How you know that is by the way the people are interacting and how much actual ability we have. We sometimes refer to it as power, right? Power being our ability to get things done. However we come by that power. It's not usually by your title, and it's certainly not going to be by your title as a project manager. It's going to be, like Carl said, by your charismatic draw, right? How much do people want to work for you? Why do they want to get work done? How we're going to really find out what kind of organization we're working in is when we go to, negotiate and communicate with those functional managers and see whose priorities are going to take precedence, whose work are the people really going to do first. How well are we going to be able to negotiate time? Can I really have these people devoted to my project, for a few days or a few weeks? What's really going to happen? If they've agreed to have the people work on my project and they're working away, are they constantly interrupting them and giving them other work to do? And, if their boss writes their review and does their performance evaluation, people are going to tend to do that person's work first, right? So are they cooperating? Is it important to them to get the project work done? That's how we know. We have to work with the people and talk to the people and get to know it. And which leads to another point. It's why it's so tremendously important for managers to engage the team and keep them there at the company, right? There's a lot being said about people being job jumpers, younger generations being job jumpers. The reality, according to SHRM, the Society of Human Resource Management, is that if we are able to engage our employees, no matter what age or age group they come from, then they're going to stay. And what we lose when people leave, especially project managers, when they leave, is that intellectual property, but not necessarily the technical IP that they've learned working for us, but the ability, like Carl started with, to get things done. Once we start applying our project skills and techniques and methodologies, we're combining that with how things work in a particular organization. And it's critical to understand that to be able to get things done. And we lose that when we lose the people.
And I also think that a lot of this goes to just how good are you at drawing those people in? I think what Dave was saying there is really kind of important. And if you have the capacity to actually keep people, as he was using the word, engaged, and do so on a religious basis, then this question, while important, becomes moot. It really ultimately does, because there are certain people you work for, you would go to the wall for, and it doesn't matter what kind of organization you're in.
Mm-hmm. I see. So since we're at the midpoint here of the questions list that we have, I wanted to take a quick pause and ask you about do any of these particular questions stand out to you in your experience interviewing others for project management roles? Do you have any particular anecdotes that you could share as it relates to some of these questions that answers you've heard from interviewees that you've gotten that may or may not have hit the spot as far as what you were looking for in a response?
I would probably never ask all 30 of these questions of any, because it's like a kind of almost a PMP quiz, and that's understanding all of these terms and methods aren't nearly as important as a person's attitude and willingness to take on the job. Project management is by no stretch of the imagination an easy job. And so that's the kind of thing that I'm usually looking for when I'm hiring people. So I'd be looking more for, how do they react to unfavorable conditions, unfavorable situations. For example, I worked in a matrix organization that had a PMO. I was a project manager. And so the PMO it was a program management office. So the program managers were the kings. They're in charge of everything. And so as a project manager, one day a program manager said to me, "Hey, I need you to get something done." And without explaining all the details of it, it involved me going down into manufacturing and getting some prototypes made. Okay, no problem, Chief. I'm going to go do that for you. I'm going to get that done. I'm dropping everything. I'm going to do this today. I will have these prototypes for you at the end of the day, right? I got out of manufacturing, talked to the guy I needed to talk to. He goes, "Oh, man, sorry, dude. I can't help you today." "Why not?" "Well, I got this special job I got to do for this program director." I was like, his same guy, right? So I went back to his office and said, "Now you just gave me something to do that I have to partner with this other guy to do. And you also called this other guy and gave him something different to do. So that we both can't accomplish both of these goals today, right?" And he started laughing and said, yeah, I have no idea why he did that, but this is the kind of, it had to do with the kind of organization. He had that much power that other guy wasn't going to help me. So, you know, I got it all done. Understanding how those things work, how the politics work, and the fact that it's not fair. People, it really, what he was doing to find out later was testing me to see how I was going to handle that situation. Was I going to get angry? Was I going to try to go above his head and get this guy to work for me? You know what I did? I found other resources and I got it done. And he got both things that he asked for in the same day. And that's what it ended up being. But understanding how the power play worked in that organization, I kind of learned it that day. And it helped me a lot as I move forward in that organization. So my answer to that, to your real question, is trying to get from a person a good, clear understanding of how to react to unfavorable circumstances that are almost certainly going to come their way.
Sorry about that. Thank you for sharing that, David. Yeah, attitude is definitely a big thing beyond just being able to regurgitate information from a straight set of questions.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and my example is actually a lot smaller than Dave's, and that was I was newly minted as a project manager, and my old boss Ed came into my office and said, "Hey, I need you to cover the front desk." And I looked at him and I said, "I'm sorry," and he said, "Shirley had to run out, and I need you to cover the front desk for an hour." And I said, okay, just tell me how to work that idiot phone, then I'll be happy to. And I went to the front desk, and I'm sitting there, you know, good afternoon, welcome to, and I'm doing front desk duty. And after an hour, I went, he sent somebody else to cover, and I went back to my office. And one of the other project managers came into my office and said, "Unbelievable." And I said, "What?" And he said, "Were you working the front desk?" And I said, "Yeah." And he said, "Ed came into my office while you were working the front desk and told me I had to cover the second hour for Shirley." And I said, "Oh." I said, "But you're not out there." And he said, "No, bag that. I am a project manager. I'm not doing that crap. That's admin work." He said, and I told Ed, "Forget about it. It's not going to happen." And that was his last day.
I'm sure. It would have been his last day working for me, too.
Yeah, but what's intriguing about that is I think that's what I'm looking for in a project manager. It's somebody who doesn't go, "Oh, no, that's beneath my station.
Not my job."
Yeah, exactly. Not my job, not my problem. And that's not going to happen because the reality is I'm looking at it going, everything's my job. Yeah, and as long as I can embrace that to a degree and still, as Dave said, still get the real work done that has to be done, I'm a winner.
Yeah, it's both things, really. It's the ability to get things done and the willingness.
Yeah,
absolutely. Excellent. Very good. Thank you for sharing those anecdotes, gentlemen. Let's move on to the next question here. Number 16, what is a critical path? Explain. Where did we leave off? I think, David, are you next?
Okay. So critical path, I would expect them to be able to tell me that this is a pretty important concept to me. I don't really, I can accept that a project manager may or may not have used earned value. They may even not even be able to calculate a critical path, but they need to understand what it is. It's so fundamentally important. And the critical path is the shortest time in which a project can be completed or a set of tasks. It's the longest path through the project through a network diagram. But most importantly, it is a sequence of tasks that have no float, no slack time. So a day-for-day slip in any of these tasks, if they start late or take longer, is likely, highly likely to have an impact on the end date. And so they need to understand that the critical path, we need to understand the critical path so that we understand where to focus our attention first. Then the next thing I want them to be able to explain is why we don't only focus on the critical path. And of course, the underlying reason for that is because if you focus only on the critical path, the non-critical paths are soon to become critical and bite you.
Very good. Thank you, sir. Number 17, Carl, what is fast tracking?
Fast tracking, the technical definition, is overlapping tasks to do them in parallel to speed up the network. And what I'd want to have a conversation with somebody about when it comes to fast tracking is how many balls can you... Tracking is all about, we're going to do it this way, but now we're going to overlap everything. Okay, great. But if we're going to overlap everything, can you keep tabs on that many things? Fast tracking inherently increases the degree of risk on a project. And I would want somebody who's actually saying to me, yes, I can do 2 things at once. Yes, I can do 3 things at once. Yes, I can do 5 things at once. But anybody who's ever tried to juggle knows that if you can do 3 potatoes, that's a major accomplishment. That's a major function. When you finally learn how to just get the one up high and throw the next one and everything else that you're supposed to do when you're juggling, you get to where you can consistently juggle 3 items, you're a hero. You add a 4th one in there, kiss it goodbye. Everything you learned before is moot. It doesn't matter. And if they understand that, they understand the nature of fast tracking. Because yes, we can keep stacking things up and doing things in parallel, happy day, but the real challenge is going to be they're going to drop the ball. They're going to make that mistake. They're not going to be able to keep up with all of it. And if they are realistic about it and say, yeah, I can fast track, but you need to understand the chances of the ball getting dropped at some point along the way, they increase dramatically. And it's going to suck up more time for me as a manager because I'm going to be spending time transferring from one task to the next task to the next task to the next task. That's also going to be a big part of the challenge here.
I see. Thank you. Number 18, what are the estimating techniques? Which one is the most accurate one, David?
So let's talk first about the accuracy of estimating. Estimating is forecasting the future. So there is no such thing as an estimate that has plus or minus 0 uncertainty. There's always uncertainty associated with an estimate. So which one is the most accurate one becomes a matter of where are you in the timeline more than which estimating technique are you using. Now, the 3 estimating techniques that we usually talk about are parametric, analogous, and bottom-up, right? So parametric is a statistical technique. It can be very accurate as long as the input data is accurate. Parametric is saying we have a certain cost per parameter. It might be for, say a square yard of concrete in a building. It costs X amount of dollars for a square yard of concrete. You have a certain number of yards of concrete that need to be poured. You multiply the number of yards times the cost per yard, and you have an estimate. So the more accurate the data is, and usually in the case of parametric, it's historical data, the better that data is, the more accurate that estimate will be. So for each technique, it's going to be more accurate the better the input is and the more you work at it. Analogous is also called top-down estimating, and that's comparing our project to another project, creating an analogy. And that tends to be the least accurate of them. We sometimes call that the top-down estimate. And I've worked in an environment where, for instance, people were out there selling things and they weren't going to get a contract unless they gave a price. So, and it's for something that's custom. You have your finger up, Carl?
Yeah.
No,
it froze. It froze.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Okay. So, so top down tends to be, a little bit less accurate unless your project is exactly like the other one, which they usually aren't. The most common words we hear are, this project is exactly like the previous project, except, and whatever follows is going to cause the accuracy of the estimate to go, wider and wider in uncertainty. So we have that. Then we have the bottom-up estimate, and that's talking about taking the bottom level, the work package level of the work breakdown structure, and estimating at that level and then rolling that up. And the way to make that more accurate is to break it down into more and more detailed chunks, because it's easier to estimate time to take a task if that task is smaller, and the closer in that task is to you in time. In other words, it's pretty easy to estimate what a team of 5 people can accomplish next week. It is very difficult to estimate what a team of 5 people can accomplish in a month, a year from now, right? And so each of the estimating techniques can be more or less accurate depending on how much work and effort you put into it. And of course, in Agile, estimating is done completely differently. So that would count as a 4th estimating technique at this point.
Very thorough response. Hopefully no one will get that question